Hey, what's up everyone? This is going to be a complete guide on Geras. I'm not going to focus too long on combos because I have a combo video on my YouTube channel, and I know I'm missing some optimal combo routes in that video. It was like a day one combo video I posted, so I could always make like a part 2 combo video or something at some point if need be. But I'll start off with the basics with Geras and then get through the complicated, complex stuff gradually throughout the video. So let's get started. So Geras is obviously a grappler in this game, just like an MK11. He does have a high command grab in this game though, not a mid, but luckily for him, he has a bunch of normals that are non-high attacks. So he has low, he has 2 good mids, and he also has an overhead. So his toolkit is really good. His back one is his main mid, and it's really far reach, and it's 16 frames, which is fast for how much distance it covers. He also has the shorter range fast mid. Excuse me. This one has less reach, but it's much faster. So like if you're in down 1 range or something, it's a really good follow-up. And another good thing about this normal too is it tick throws into the command grab unblocked. And he also has a follow-up option that also tick throws unblocked. And you can mix it up with this string, which is safe on block on the last hit. It's unsafe on flawless block, but it's on a read. So like if you think that they're gonna block the first hit, but you don't know if they're gonna block the second hit or not because of the tick throw mind games, you can kind of just hope that you're not going to get flawless block punished and do the full string. The last hit of that string does a lot of damage. It's like 12-14% on its own. So if you land just that hit, it's like you're still winning on a lot of damage. So like don't stress it if you don't hit confirm it. If you see the first hit land, obviously, then yeah, try your best to hit confirm it. But from after that first hit, if they block, then I would just do the full string. Because if you do forward 1-2, you're minus 18, and then forward 1 by itself is only minus 6, but you obviously can't hit confirm that, so it's only 1 hit. He also can tick throw off his whole kit of pokes, his whole arsenal of pokes. So he has 5 tick throws normally, and later on I'll explain why I said normally right there. Involves setups and stuff later on, but just some basic combos I'll go over. Geras has this clock move. He can charge up to 3, and that's really when he starts, that's the only time he gets any special moves is when he has 3 stacked. So a lot of the time, me personally, I want to build those clocks because they grant you with these moves in his moves list that are very helpful. So I have 3 stored right now. So I get access to the Thanos snap, as everybody calls it. It's a meterless launcher that starts up combos, and it's really good if you're getting zoned out. It is on the slower side, it's 26 frames, but a move like that covers the whole screen and hits mid, like, it definitely should be slow. So, you can also choose which side you want. I can hold backwards to teleport in front, or I can just not hold anything and it'll teleport behind by default. If you're in the corner, it won't teleport you in the corner. So if their back's against the wall completely, you won't teleport in the corner. And same thing with temporal advantage, you won't get teleported in the corner. So if I go back to mid-screen, if you don't hold anything, you'll side switch. If you hold backwards, you'll get the non-side switch. So some combos with him, as I said, you want to charge these clocks. I'll put 2 right now. Another way you can add some clocks is by doing this string, 1, 2, 2, 1 plus 3. That counts as a clock. and I have my Thanos snap again. Another move that charges up your clocks is meter burn sand pillar. So I just charged 2 on my own manually, and I just got the meter burn sand pillar to hit, and I have my snap again. Those are all the ways you can charge your clocks. With this move, with this string, and then meter burn hourglass. So, me personally, when I'm using Geras, I like charging my clocks mid-combo because this move has a long animation. As you can see, it's 71 frames, 70 recovery frames. That's like leaving you vulnerable to projectiles on reaction, or people might like be jumping in because maybe you're zoning them a little bit with sandstorm, and like they like dash and jump after maybe you make them block a sand pillar or something. So you definitely got to be careful when using this move. So that's why I prefer to do it in combos usually, or maybe you can use an assist to back you up, make it safer. So something like this is a basic combo. You can do forward 2 clock and then forward 2 command grab. You got 1 clock charged right there. And there is some opportunities for getting 2 clocks stored. You could do something with a little less gravity scaling. That's 2 clocks right there, and you're plus 23, so sometimes you can even do clock charge after that string with your hit advantage. So you send them full screen, use your hit advantage, and you can maybe get that clock safely, depending on the character. Sub can probably use slide on reaction in that scenario, but just character dependent, just be cautious. Just a basic temporal advantage combo. If you don't want to store clocks, this is the go-to combo. Down 2 scale in this game, so like you could do double down 2, but you're gonna get way less damage. After the first down 2 in a combo, they start to scale. So, you know, this combo route is a little bit harder, but once you get the timing, like see I dropped it, once you get the timing down, it's not so bad. And I'm not the best at commentating or talking while I play, so I partially blame myself for talking and playing and dropping that. So yeah, I'll show a few more combo routes. 4-2-4, that's another good footsie tool, but this is a high attack. But it's like a pretty quick punish, especially like if maybe you block a scorpion spear from like half screen, you can dash in real quick, 4-2-4. This leads to sand pillar, and you can meterlessly launch off of it. And you get really big damage for, like, Geras does big damage in general. So 4-2-4, it's one of your main strings. It's safe and is gapless. It doesn't have any armor gaps. 4-2 is -3, that's not bad. 4-2-4 is -4, but the last hit is unsafe. But you don't need to do the last hit because 4-2-4 is pretty easy to hit confirm. But if you do the last hit, like say maybe you landed or something, you can do that and then get a combo from it. Depending on the cameo too, which I won't talk too much on because I'll make a separate video for that, you can block string off of the third hit. 4-2 jails into a lot of things like gapless cameo pressure, and so does back 1, sometimes back 1 too. So those are good normals to do summons into because they usually have no gap or they have a small gap that they can armor. One thing I forgot to mention too is Geras' pokes. His down 1 specifically is the worst, stubbiest down 1 in the game, and I'll show an example of why it's a really bad weakness to have. if I try to counter poke sub or most of the roster, you can't reach him. Like, so be aware that Geras is one of the weaker characters when it comes to defense, but his offense is obviously really strong. So depending on what you prefer, you can use down 3, down 4 as a counter poke. You may have to dash up until you're down 1. So keep that in mind when maybe poking out of pressure or trying to get your turn or whatever the case may be involving a poke. And I will show the armor gap too in 4-1-2. The reason I brought that up is because there's multiple ways to blow that string up in case you're trying to enforce your tick throw mind games and stuff. And also, I forgot to mention that meter burn hourglass automatically charges your clocks to 3, so then you get the effective 3 clocks. Geras has lots of options for anti-airing opponents. I usually do stand 1 because it's in my muscle memory, but you can also use his armor attack, which launches airborne opponents, or you could use temporal advantage if you're really feeling confident and want to save bar from using the armored move. So sometimes you could use the armored move and go into using temporal advantage, but you could save bar by just using temporal advantage if you want. One of the reasons to use meter burn sand pillar is to create tick throws with it. So pretty much what's happening is you're making your opponent block the meter burn sand pillar last as you're doing a normal or string. It's ticking because the block stun on meter burn sand pillar is very quick. They're not stuck in block stun forever. So because it's quick, it's timing perfectly with the command grab where they're in block stun, but not for too long. So it doesn't jail on them and the command grab won't whiff, because command grabs won't land if the opponent is in block stun. So you just have to learn your timing to make them block the sand pillar last, to put them in that little block stun, and then your command grab will land. It's hard to master, but it's a nice option to have, and it's one of the reasons why he's one of my favorite grapplers. And these are all the tick throws you can do with meter burn sand pillar. If you're using a single hitting normal to tick throw with, usually a good timing that I try to look out for when playing is you can visually look at the clock, and when the circle disappears around it, it's like usually when you want to time it. Or if you want to go by audio, if you hear that chime, like that very last chime right before the click and it explodes, that's like a good timing as a reference to know when you want to throw out your normal to tick throw with. If you want to tick throw into any of the strings, that one's a little harder to do on the spot, but that's just something you do in practice mode to try and master it. The chime or ring in the meter burn sand pillar I mentioned, I turned down the game volume so I could specifically point out this chime to kind of help you better indicate when you should do your tick throws if you're an audio person. So here's what it sounds like. I hope those recordings help get like a better idea of when you should do your tick throw if you're going by sound. I'm working with the PS4 Share Factory edit, so like bear with me on that. I just hope it was helpful. I tried going the extra mile on that one. This is Geras' reverse time move. It's not too hard to understand. You just need 3 clocks to be able to use it in 1 bar of meter. So sometimes you might not use the snap and maybe you don't have a breaker or something, so you want to use this. What it does is, if done successfully, you'll regain some health back from a combo. I'm not sure what the cap is for it, but it's really helpful if you can get it done successfully. But it is possible to stuff, and it can be difficult to successfully do sometimes. You got to be like very familiar with combo timings of the characters that your opponents use. So it can be punished. It's very easy to just waste your 3 slots and 1 bar for, and to have nothing happen if done unsuccessful. So it's definitely a move that you gotta spend some time with, but it's well worth learning. This attempt was unsuccessful because I was stuck mid-activation, and part of it was unsuccessful because that blue burst that comes out, it didn't reach Liu Kang. If it was to reach, it would have froze him and stopped him from doing his combo. But since it didn't reach him, and you have to be very close for that blue burst or bubble to reach, that's why a lot of the time it's easy to mess up and be unsuccessful with it. But if you can get that blue bubble to reach, it'll freeze your opponent, and then it'll stop everything, and he'll do the animation. If the blue bubble doesn't freeze your opponent, they can punish you after you use your reverse time, and it can also be armor broken at any point during the animation. Sand Clone is the hardest move to explain. It has so many properties, but it lasts like 4 or 5 seconds before you teleport back to your checkpoint. I did 6 dashes in the first clip. This clip I did 6 dashes into a combo. The second you're done with any animations, you'll get teleported back to your checkpoint after the 4 or 5 second mark. So what you want to do is, you want to use Temporal Advantage, the regular version, Command Grab, or Snap at the end of your combos, because you don't get teleported back to your checkpoint whenever you use those moves after the 4 or 5 second mark of your checkpoint. So if you don't want your combos to get interrupted, you have to end in those specials after your 4 or 5 second mark. If you're in Sand Clone, your Fatal Blow will give you the place of where Geras teleports, so that you can't like make yourself safe pretty much. If you're quick enough and beat your checkpoint time before it's up, you can do stuff like that. But if your 4 or 5 seconds already passes, then you'll get punished for full damage. When you reappear back to your checkpoint, you're safe from like guaranteed throws or guaranteed combos. You can always block when reappearing. If you use clone and your checkpoint's right by you and you do something unsafe, regardless of your timer being up, you can still get punished because you retain the active frames or block advantage frames of the move you did last. So if they're fast enough, they can still punish you, even though normally you could be safe. It's just because your checkpoint was right by where you were punished at, so they still punished you. You can stay blocking for like 10 seconds and then the clone animation will go away. But the second you let go of block after the 4 or 5 second mark, you're considered vulnerable. And the second you're not in a jailed state, like jailed on block or on hit, and you let go of block, you'll go back to your checkpoint. In this clip, I retained the sand pillar frames, so I'm getting punished by the flying kick because it has so many recovery frames. Even though I did get teleported back to my checkpoint, I'm still getting punished because I'm still in the active frames of the sand pillar. In this example, I was able to block because I just stood there and I wasn't under any animation, so I was able to punish after taking the hit. In the end, I really don't think using this move is worth it, because once your 4 or 5 seconds is up, you're considered vulnerable and you're going to teleport back to your checkpoint. Unless you were to consistently be able to do things before your checkpoint time was up, I don't think it's worth using. It's just too much setup and there's not enough time to do what it's intended to be used for. But now we can finally talk about the meter burn version where the fun stuff is at. From what I tested, the clone is completely invincible to everything. It just unfazed by the projectiles. Cameo attacks as well. Invincible too, it seems like. You can't use the clone as like a barrier against the opponent. The opponent can shift the clone if they choose to advance in. If you use Fatal Blow and you used any setups with the clone, it'll cancel anything you'd made the clone do. One of the ways you can set this up is on block. Back 1 I think is the safest, then 4-2-4, and then 4-2. Those are like the safest block strings in the time stop because they have the most blocks done. But there's like a 10 frame gap in between back 1 and time stop. So if they have a fast enough move that reaches far enough, they have 10 frames to punish it from what my tests seem to show. There's so many layers to this move. If they're not ready to punish it, and you can tell you're safe because if their move doesn't connect, then it's going to freeze the screen. And if it does connect, it's not going to freeze the screen. So you can just whiff punish Liu Kang in that scenario and it's really easy. And if they didn't commit to down 1 and they're just blocking, they could try to armor, but you can enforce the mind game of if you're going to break their armor or not. Using the time freeze is pretty hard, but with some labbing you can get used to it. So when Geras pumps his fist together or when the screen freezes, that's when you can start inputting things. And when you input things, you'll hear these clicks, which are indicators that your inputs are happening. You won't hear clicks if you try jumping or grabbing because you can't grab and you can't jump. You can move left and right with the clone, but that doesn't toggle or trigger the click sound. So you kind of have to just know where you're placing the clone, and again, that comes with labbing and experience. The only time you'll hear the button presses or the clicks is when you're physically dialing in like strings or normals. When you're using time freeze, you can't use any assist. The only way you can use an assist is before the screen freeze. Otherwise, your assist is going to be grayed out until the clone disappears. When you use the time freeze, you can also set up hard to block situations like fast overhead low or low overhead, however you want to set it up. Time freeze allows you to create launching command grab setups. This is probably the best use for time freeze in my opinion, or the hard to block scenarios you can create with it. Those two uses are the best in my opinion when using this move though. To end this video, I'm going to do a 6-corner combo that involves a launching command grab setup. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I hope it was helpful. I tried my best to cover every detail possible for the entire kit that Geras has. And again, sorry for the audio on my mic. I don't have the best mic and I gotta invest in a new one.